Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols, and I'm here to bring you your Nichols Worth. I went to Nashville to interview Philip Nation, the publisher at Thomas Nelson. Went by the office and checked some things out. We met in a conference room and we talked all things Thomas Nelson Publishing. One of the questions I asked him was being the stewards of not only the New King James, but really being viewed as the stewards of the King James as well. Although the King James is public domain and many publishers publish it, Thomas Nelson seems to have a special relationship with it because of the NKJV, and often you will see that special relationship when they release Bibles that are sort of mirrored, kind of like the Sovereign Collection with the KJV and the NKJV and even the RSV. Also, you have the compact McLarens with the KJV and the NKJV. They have large print, thin line paragraph style in the KJV and the NKJV. So many options to where you get beautiful editions in both the New King James and the King James. So Philip answered the question as to why the King James was still such a priority for them. Check it out. Today I've got Philip Nation with Thomas Nelson here. Going to ask him a few questions. Really excited to be here in Nashville. It's a beautiful day. Still got a little bit of snow on the ground, but there's a lot of publishers that publish the King James because it is in public domain.
Right.
But with Thomas Nelson, you all seem to really give it extra attention and really make some beautiful additions. For example, the paragraph style. That is probably my favorite King James Bible.
Oh, good.
But I also noticed that you all give equal attention to that often with the New King James, to where you'll create mirroring editions like the Sovereign Collection. So tell us about that.
Well, it's part of the heritage of Thomas Nelson as an overall publishing company, and then specifically our Bible publishing, that dates back over 250 years, that we've been a primary publisher of the King James Version for all of those years. And so our inheritance is a work that needs to continue on because of the legacy of the King James Version, and because there are still so many readers of the Bible that are preferential to the King James Version. I know that you've done some videos about the different kind of readers of the King James Version, and we want to serve that audience of Bible readers as well as we can. And so we've invested significantly and heavily into the continuation of the publishing of the King James Version. And as you say, a lot of times the editions that we publish are mirrors between the New King James and the King James Version, with center column reference Bibles, end-of-verse reference Bibles, the Sovereign Collection, and many, many others.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest challenge? Because I know a lot of times with the King James, you stick with that verse by verse, where in the New King James, you do the paragraph format, and I know the word count's different. So what's like the biggest challenge when you're producing those mirroring editions?
Yeah, so it comes down to really it's the behind the scenes, it's the budgeting process and the production process, because it is going to be different page counts, because it's different word counts. The NKJV uses supplied words in the translation, and so and you'll see those show up in italics in the actual typesetting when you're reading. And so the word count's actually higher for the NKJV. And though we do have also files available of the NKJV in verse by verse format, primarily readers prefer the paragraph format. So you can find both, but it's just a different typesetting challenge. One's verse by verse, has different subheadings, has a different set of cross references, has a different set of translator notes, and then the NKJV, goes its own path. So it becomes like two different projects that are simply going to be mirrored in the format of the composition when it comes to where are the translator notes going to sit, where are the cross references going to sit, and which set of subheadings, which concordance are we going to use. So it becomes two different projects that we're trying to mirror in terms of style of text or reference Bible.
And that's a pretty good sized commitment, considering that, as you said, there's a whole different set of translator notes, there's a whole different set of references, and generally speaking, you get them both to look pretty well the same, even somewhat the same thickness.
Yeah, and that is, I'll say, the unsung heroes oftentimes in the Bible publishing world are the comp teams, the composition teams. And here with HCCP, HarperCollins Christian Publishing, we have a best-in-class team of men and women who have been doing Bible typesetting for decades. This is what they committed their vocation to a long time ago. And so they just simply know how the science and the art has to work together to create these typesettings, so that oftentimes those page counts do come very close to one another, but they're always going to be a little bit different, simply because how much room a paragraph formatting takes up is different from a verse by verse formatting. Where you put the cross references matter, what's the type size, all of these variables that go into it.
But when I think about the work that you all do with both the New King James and the King James, some additions really come to mind. Number one is the classic reference that you have in both. You have the baby McLarens.
The compact McLarens?
The compact McLarens that, those are just so beautifully done. Those are absolutely outstanding. I love the size of them. I love the readability of the font, and to have it available in both translations is really nice. The Sovereign with the wide margin and the personal size, and there's some newer additions, some refreshes, I guess you would say, coming up here soon.
Yeah, and so, like, for example, one that we didn't mirror originally was the New King James end of verse reference, and now we're going to be producing those in King James versions as well, and also those in larger font sizes. And so the whole process of there was a whole process that we went through about 5 years ago of resetting the entire text and reference lines of our products, because we started using the comfort print typefaces, which were commissioned, and they have their moorings in the history of the translations themselves, and we think they're beautiful, and we think that they make it easier to read. And so periodically we'll go through and refresh an older King James version that we have into the comfort print fonts in order to bring it up, an updated edition of it.
And of course, my favorite that's I would consider mirrored is specifically the McLaren large print thin line. I love that one because the words of Christ are in blue. I love the blue accents. I also think it's easier to get blue consistent than it is with red. But it didn't have a KJV companion until about a year ago, when you all did the paragraph style. That had to be a massive undertaking.
It was a significant change and shift and challenge for our composition team, because they took all of the paragraph formatting and styling from the New King James and then applied it to the King James Version text. And so it's not just a matter of, okay, we know where the paragraph breaks are, and we're just going to slide the subheadings over inside of each one of the chapters, so you'll know, okay, this is where David fights Goliath, or this is where Paul goes to Tarshish, and things of that nature. You also have to go through and make sure that all the spellings are correct. And you have to decide which set of cross references are we going to use, and how are you going to indicate, what are going to be the indicators inside of the verses, and where are they going to be placed. So it was a massive undertaking, but again, that's the composition team. They take those things on as a fun challenge of, this is the fun part of what they get to do.
And I was so glad to see that come out, because it existed in some older formats, but I don't believe that in current print we have a 2-column KJV Bible with those poetic types. I think that's so important. Is to get those poetic typesettings to where you can see the poetry. I just think that's important.
Yeah, there have been some other paragraph style KJV Bibles from other publishers. This is the first one that I'm aware of from Nelson Bibles, and to transition those in KJV poetic settings over to the KJV, I think does make a substantial difference in the reading experience. And that's, it's a cornerstone of what we want to do. Is we talk about having a beautiful Bible initiative here, and certainly most of the time when people hear that, they think, oh, the beautiful covers and the beautiful gilding, but we also think about the interior of how does this layout invite you in and make it easy for you to sustain your reading process.
And I think that's something about Thomas Nelson that is greatly underappreciated, is the commitment to not only the beauty of a text, but to go ahead and make the external part really nice as well, to make nice covers with the Premier Collection and some of the genuine leather options, ones that are on that like second tier. You do the goffered edges, you do the nice ribbons, you do the nice paper, so that is a tremendous service. And I'm sure because you print such a volume, that probably allows for that, but that's really nice, because you know me, you know what I'm going to do. when I get a Bible, that cover's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put a nice cover on it. If it's the leather soft edition or something, the Premier collections, I generally don't. But it's just really nice to have both those options, the King James, New King James, not to mention the NET, that you all have got a pretty strong commitment to. And just really love the fact that there are 3 translations. You have your tradition of the King James, then you have that tradition honored with the New King James, and you have something a little more modern with the NET, not to mention the full notes.
Just a moment about the production value. You know that most Bible buyers are not like you. We know that most people are not going to have anything rebound. In fact, most people sitting in a pew, they don't even know that having a Bible rebound is an option.
Right.
They just go to buy a Bible. And so we wanted to make a commitment, and we can do it because of how large our corporation is and because of the volume of Bibles that we sell, is when people buy a Bible, whether it is something that is a value edition or that mid-tier kind of edition, we want it to be something that's going to last. We want it to be a good experience. And so we've invested heavily into having what we call the leather soft edition, the faux leather, that those are quality and that they're not going to crack, they're not going to break, this is not going to break down soon, but you're going to feel like this is a Bible that's going to be worth the money I've invested into it for the long haul.
And a lot of times when they're on sale, I mean, you can get those things sometimes south of $30.
Yeah, we're happy for all of our sales channel partners that are willing to discount them down.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview. Do you agree that Thomas Nelson has done a great job in preserving the legacy of the King James while also promoting their flagship translation in the New King James? I believe they have. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on.